All right, the next step in this is installing this into your, but first of all, let me just talk about safety for just a minute. Wearing your safety glasses through doing this is very, very important. Doing all this machine drilling, you know, that could pop back in your face, so make sure you're wearing your safety glasses at all times. We're going to use the same bit one more time and prep the boat. Now this boat has been done a few times, so it's got some stuff already done to it. So what we're going to do is just take this my old boat here that I've done a few things with. As you can see, it's got some silicone down in there probably. It's still got our tubing in here. So this wouldn't be done probably in your boat yet. But what I want to do, start off with, is to take the special drill bit. And I should add this before, if I didn't mention, this is a special size bit. This is not a typical bit you'd find at your local hardware store. It was sourced specifically, most people don't realize this, is that besides those fractional and metric sizes and stuff, they make quite a few other sizes of bits that for situations like this when we're trying to get a particular fit in something. I know when I put this the shaft in, I kind of had to tap it in with a hammer, but I think that was primarily because of the fact that I did not chamfer that particular brass. I'll have it better chamfered in the kits, so it should slide in a little bit easier, but if it doesn't, you can always just tap it in lightly with a hammer. It's not that big of a deal. The good thing is it's a tight fit, and that's what we're looking for, is a good tight fit. So let's go ahead and I want to show you what we're going to do with this. Now this boat, by the way, has had some bigger holes put in it before, but I'm just going to, I've never run this bit through it, so we're just going to give this a shot. If you want to run these through here, and actually this does fit nicely in there. Same thing here. I probably have done this before. I don't know about this hole. See, that hole there. That hole there, we hadn't run through. So we ran the bit all through those. And this boat has had, like I said, it's had lots of silicone and stuff put on it, so it's a little dirty from what you might think normally. So that's how we're going to start this. So we're going to leave that just kind of sitting there for just a minute. On this, what we want to do first is to remove, I found my screwdriver here, is to go ahead and take the pump back apart. So we're going to go ahead and use our 2 and 2.5 millimeter drivers to remove the screws from and remove the pump, or remove the nozzle from the pump, I should say. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I'm still kind of getting used to kind of keeping this stuff in front of the camera, so and we're going to glue that in too, but we'll actually do that. Usually I don't glue these certain things like that until I get into a certain level. So what the last thing, once we get this in the boat, in a minute I'll show you how I glue in the brass pickup there, or right before we put the nozzle back on. We'll do that. So go ahead and take that off. Go ahead and pull this off. I'm going to go ahead and remove these screws that we put. The reason we put these screws in here primarily is just so that we get threads that are in, so that way as we're going to put this back in there, they go in. And I'm going to show you something else too. Anytime you put screws into plastic, you just want to screw it down until you feel a very light pressure. So you want to be putting very light pressure when you're putting it. You don't want to like a full grip of the drill of your screwdriver, otherwise you'll end up stripping out your plastic. So you just want a very light touch to it, and then when you feel it kind of stop. Now this is going to get pulled back down to this direction about like that when we're putting it in, so I'm just going to leave it kind of in that position right there. We're going to grab our silicone, and what I usually like to do is go ahead and put a little bit of silicone, and we'll make sure I get my silicone kind of started. Sometimes just in this tube here you have to kind of get it kind of started. Alright, so now that we got our silicone started, we're going to put just a kind of a smear coat down here on this face. Right there, that's what we want to do right there. You're going to take this, place this back on here like that, get it aligned, and you can. It's okay to kind of do it like that. And usually what I use, I'll usually take a piece of linkage or something just to make sure that we're kind of lined up here. Kind of move this around to make sure that everything is lining up like it's supposed to. Now on the bottom of this, well, actually we'll go ahead and put a little bit more silicone right around this edge, and we're just trying to smear this. This is just more of a smear coat. This is not it's not like a real heavy bead coat, because it's going to get pressed up against it. And we're going to put a little bit on this leading edge right on this back side right there. Now we want to put some silicone down the side and around on the just right down the side of this right here. You put you want kind of a bead, and it's just kind of hard for me to do this when I can't really see what I'm doing. And you can wipe off the majority of this with some denatured alcohol or whatnot later on. That's basically what you want to see like that. Now I'll try my best to kind of show you how we put this in the boat. It's just a little bit difficult to see this. So what we want to do is bring this in like this and slide that piece out the bottom, and then just kind of slide it back in here and line up your screw holes down in there like that. And you can flip it over, and you want to, usually I take a little piece of wire or whatever, make sure I've got make sure it's going through the hole, and then start the screw, and well, I don't drop my screw in the hole. I'm not sure where that one went there. Actually, it went down back on the table. I'm going to try my best to, well, my fingers are quite large, and I have a real hard time holding a boat in front of a camera and starting I still can't hold on that screw. My fingers are quite large. My biggest problem is trying to do this right in front of a camera when it's away from my body. Well, hold on a second here. Let me sit this down for just a minute so I can't put it on the actual part here. Try my best to hold on to this, because it's just not going to work for me very well, I don't think. Okay. You got to give me just a minute. We'll have to start one of these screws off camera, because I can't do it 3 feet away from my long arms here. It just doesn't work for me very well. Yeah. Yes. There's a little more light in here too. That might have been my biggest problem, was actually some lighting, as well as having a real hard time actually seeing this. But as you can see now that we kind of got one screw in there, we can go ahead and tighten. And I should say what we want to do, you'll see here, just want to use 2 fingers and just kind of screw this down until you feel it kind of get a little tight, but not, you're not trying to manhandle this down. And you should be able now to take this and kind of move it down just a little bit to kind of get it down out of your way. And start these other screws here. And what you're going to want to do when you get this kind of where you want it eventually is probably take a little bit of silicone. Just take a little bit of silicone right up under the screw right there. And as you turn it, it's going to kind of drive that silicone around. Like I said, I have a hard time. That distance getting anything into a small screw head. Okay. It'll kind of just drive that around. Like that. Like I said, you can put a little bit of silicone right up underneath there, and that will actually, as you turn this, it's going to kind of create its own little washer effect. And you'll feel these just actually kind of just bare. You'll feel it just just tighten up a little bit, and then that's exactly what you want. Now I'm going to loosen this one back up just a second, and we'll put a little bit of a silicone under it. Like I said, I cannot get this thing in the screw there whenever I am in front of the camera. And so what you're doing, you're just barely holding it with 2 fingers until you feel it kind of stop, and just like that. Piece of paper towel here, and just kind of wipe up any excess silicone. It's a good time to do that right through here, and so forth. Now we're going to work on the back. Now what we're going to do on the back side here is, of course, put our nozzle in place. Before I do that, I'd like to go ahead and glue this. So I'm going to take this particular, take these screws here out just temporarily. There's a little issue with this one getting around. I push it through, knock it out like that. So what we're going to do is get a little alcohol swab. We just want to wipe down this area. Want to wipe down this little area right in here, right around this area right there, like that. Okay. And we'll just kind of let that sit there and dry for just a second. And then what I like to do is take just a small amount of super glue. I'm going to slide the boat out of the way just temporarily here. Show what we do here. We'll take just a little drop of super glue. Put it right there on the cotton swab holder there. And we will, so I'll show you what we'll do is we'll find our, so you can see right there. So what I want to do here is just kind of touch the where it kind of meets right there. No. What the toothpick does is it just kind of moves the super glue right around the little area right there. So we'll let it sit like that for a few minutes, and that will basically do that. Now what we're going to do here is we're actually going to let this sit for about 8 hours and come back to it, but with the factor of camera magic, we'll be back in just a second, and we'll be doing the electronics next. So this is, in this video we're going to do the installation of the pump as we've installed it in the boat. Alright, if you missed anything, I'm sorry. I had a little issue with the camera. Okay. Alright, as you can see, we finally did get I had to go in here and screw into the actual ramp itself. I had a little bit of an issue with my ramp because this particular boat, you know, those holes that go into the ramp right there were not exactly, this is probably screwed in a little bit differently. Each one of these boats is done by somebody else, I think, at the factory, and so wherever these holes are lining up, you sometimes have to finagle with them just a little bit to kind of get the ramp here to lock in place with those bottom 2 screws. I've actually used even larger screws sometimes when it just didn't really want to work very well, but in this case, it seems like it worked just fine. This is nice and solid in here now, so we can actually plug in our water cooling actually already right now. So as you can see, this has only a small amount of movement, so when we do the linkages, you'll see how all that goes together. And we'll want to Loctite this area down here to this little knurled nut if it needs it. if it comes loose, you want to definitely do that. So what we're going to do is wait for that silicone inside the boat to cure, and then we'll come back and do to finish the electronics. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of silicone on this hole right here, and the reason for that is that when we're going to do a leak check before we do the electronics, and I'm going to show you how we can do that leak check. I'm just going to put a little dab of silicone right there, just to kind of seal that up, and we'll use that, of course, to put our servo mount in place once we modify it in just a minute, and get that in there. But hope this has not been too much of a ordeal to watch. I lost my, just so you understand, if there was a jump cut in there, I ran out of memory. Actually, that's what it was. I actually ran out of memory on that memory card. So there was my problem right there. I forgot to clear that memory card up before we got started. So, but all that turns out, that looks great. This is all good here. This is all part of doing the hobby. Some of those things take a little bit more time, and of course, doing it on video is always a real fun thing to try to do. Something that I've never done. But I will be back in probably a few seconds within the video to show you how we put the electronics in and leak check. Well, we'll leak check the boat, and then we'll put the electronics in.